Hi, I'm Bobby Allen, and I'm the head of content at MUBI. It's a really great honor to be here today to talk to you about Creative Europe and MUBI. MUBI is a curated platform. It's a VOD platform. We have a very simple model. You get 30 films. Every day there's a new film, and one that's been there for 30 days goes out. And this allows us to program all those films with a context. So I don't know, whether it's a filmmaker retrospective or a festival partnership, you always understand why we've programmed the films that we've programmed. MUBI is also social. We're actually a social network for film lovers. In fact, our original vision was to take something very much like this building you're in and put it online. So in order to do that, we have a massive film database where there are hundreds of thousands of film pages where you can set up an account and go and rate and review and discuss the films that you're interested in and connect with other cinephiles around the world. We also have our own in-house editorial team. So we cover film festivals, we do video essays, film criticism, et cetera. We publish this on an online magazine. And again, this all enriches the experience of cinema, particularly the kind of cinema that I'm talking about, which is artisanal, handmade, the cinema of ideas, not the cinema necessarily of spectacle, but human cinema. By doing this, we've over the years created a destination for film lovers that includes really millions of users now globally. So we're actually 10 years old. We launched in 2007. And here's some interesting facts about 2007. There was no iPhone, of course, which means there was no iPad, and Netflix was still a DVD distribution business. So it was very early days, but what clearly was already happening was a major shift. And this was the shift from physical to digital access of media and from ownership to access. And this fundamental shift of how consumers access filmed content has completely transformed and changed the way films are distributed. And in fact, I believe we're only in the middle of this transformation. And this is an ongoing process, which I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. So what we were doing at the time when we launched was we actually were following a business model very similar to what a lot of people were doing, which was taking a sort of more is more approach to things. Well, it turned out not to be a good business model. We really struggled to acquire subscribers. But what we were able to do was really engage with an audience. And really, like, I guess, when you talk about inspiration, like our big moment of inspiration and a big milestone for us was when we shifted to this 30-film model, to this curated approach. Because what that curation did was it allowed us to tell a story about all the films that we were programming. And by telling that story, we were not only able to solve first of all, we solved the paradox of choice by reducing the library. And then by telling that story, we were able to start to build a sort of opinionated brand. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we take sides. We say, like, our editorial policy is great films. But, like, who says they're great? Well, we say they're great. You don't agree? That's fine. Actually, that's great, because cinema is a conversation. Like a lot of arts, it's about an exchange of ideas. So tell me why you don't think it's great, and let's talk about it. So we've tried in our digital product to make that a big part of the center of what we actually do. And also by creating an opinionated brand and a curated space, and also human space as well. That's another thing we talk about a lot, is that, you know, MUBI is a human. There's actual programmers who choose those films. And that's, you know, with algorithms like taking over the world right now, I think that's really important that we find ways in the digital space to bring the human element back into play. And through all of that, what happens is, and what we've seen and data shows us, is that people are suddenly willing to take a risk on the unexpected, on the foreign, on the different, and really like get out of their comfort zone because they begin to trust you and they begin to trust your recommendations. And we think this is a very powerful way to actually, again, grow the global audience for European cinema. But I think, you know, as I said, like humanist cinema, which I think is very important that we continue to do that. And as we grew, we suddenly were able to have the library that we had always dreamed of. But the operative word there is library. So all of these films were 4, 5, 6 years old. And what we wanted to do is start to get fresh and new films. And really the way to do that is, especially, you know, given the way the distribution landscape is changing, is to control all the rights in the film. So we launched theatrical distribution in the US and the UK. But even more than controlling rights, it's also, once again, about what we represent as a company and as a brand, which is that we love great cinema. And if you love great cinema, you have to say that the theater is the best place to watch it. So we really wanted to be involved in that space. In doing that as well, what's really important is innovation. So for us as a digital company releasing films theatrically, we really take pride in making sure that not only do we have a bespoke marketing campaign for all of our films, but we also do a bespoke distribution pattern. So whether it's day and date, you know, with online and in cinemas, or observing the full traditional theatrical window, we think each film now needs its own innovative distribution pattern as well as marketing plan. So how does Creative Europe figure in all this? Well, Creative Europe actually, and you've already sort of heard it from the previous speakers, touches on the entire ecosystem of independent film globally. A lot of our partners, so whether it's the films that Sam's making or the cinemas that are getting support, we need these partnerships, and we need them to innovate along with us and try new things out. And I think that Creative Europe does. So for us, they've supported us in doing innovative digital campaigns for our theatrical releases, for example. And they also support new ideas online and trying to get traditional distributors to think about the digital market. And that's really important as well. So this support for new technologies and business models is fundamental. You know, what we need is to innovate. We need innovation and creativity and investment. And basically, it's that foundation that allows us to take these extra risks. The last thing I'd really like to say is that is very important is that for us, this is not a means unto an end. You know, we're a commercial business, and we think that like 90% of the people who like cinema don't care about what we do. But it's that 10% that we want to speak to. But over time, what we want to do is get that 10% to be 15% or 20%. So this is not a stepping stone to something else. This is not a way for us to eventually show Marvel films or something like that. This is actually a way for us together to share these films, to grow the audience for these films, and, you know, create one global space where people can come and, you know, experience film and share ideas and cross cultural borders and boundaries. Thank you.